This is the outer cape. Sun and moon rise here from the sea. The arched sky has an ocean vastness. The clouds are now of ocean, now of earth. Having known and loved this land for many years, it came about that I found myself free to visit there, and so I built myself a house upon the beach. And that was taken, some spirit of discipline and unity has passed over these countless little brains, waking in each flock a conscious sense of its collective self, and giving each bird a sense of himself, a member of some migrant company. Lone flyers are rare, and when seen have an air of being in pursuit of some flock, which has overlooked them and gone on. Swift as the wind they fly, speeding along the breakers, with the directness of a runner down a course, and I read fear in their speed. Sometimes I see them find their own and settle down beside them half a mile ahead. Sometimes they melt away into a vista of surf and sky, still speeding on, still seeking. Chapter 3, must be this way. This was taken very early when I arrived at Seascape in 2006. The very first shot I took was, I was sitting in a sand chair and I stuck my feet out and I got a picture of my feet with the ocean. It just convinced me that I was finally at a Dune Tramp. And one of the things that impressed me about The Outermost House when I first read it was, how could somebody write page after page after page, hundreds of words about a wave? How many times did he go to his Roget's thesaurus to find? Probably used every word that was in there to describe a wave. Absolutely fantastic. So I sat for an afternoon, kind of with a tip of my hat to Henry Beston, to try and capture lots of waveforms. And this is one of the actual, probably within the first dozen or so I had. Originally it was called Churling Sea. That was my own. He uses, it's funny, the more you read this book, you start to find words that he uses over and over. Don't see it at first. There's a lot of words, like rim, or rims comes to mind. He used churning a lot, and I'm not churning, I'm thinking of butter, so I went to Roget's on churling, I like that. But it wasn't in here, so we had to come up with something else. Hence, sepulchral grinding, because you could hear the stones clattering and rattling against one another when you're sitting there. It's very, very creepy, but a wonderful sound. I have described the sound of a high surf in fair weather. A storm surf is mechanically the same thing, but it grinds, and this long, sepulchral grinding, sound of utter terror to all mariners. It is the development of the second fundamental sound. It is the cry of the breaker water roaring its way along shore and dragging at the sand. A strange underbody of sound when heard through the high wind screaming of a gale. That was in the Headlong Wave. Chapter 4 was called Midwinter. And this is actually a shot I took on a hike with my dog out near High Head along the beach, trying to do some sunshot work. And this was taken actually down on the beach, looking up the dune. Called it Beach Grass Sunset back then, and now it's Pilgrimage of the Sun. A year indoors is a journey along a paper calendar. A year in outer nature is an accomplishment of a tremendous ritual. To share in it, one must have a knowledge of the pilgrimages of the sun, and something of that natural sense of him and feeling for him which made even the most primitive people, marked the summer limits of his advance and the last December ebb of his decline. Chapter 5, Winter Visitors. Okay, this isn't winter. I'll share that secret. This is April 2007 when I went out to Seascape the second time in an April nor'easter. And once I unloaded, I grabbed my camera and ran down to the beach. Well, ran up and then back down to the beach. And this is what I saw, and I got about 3 shots off, and that was it. That's all I could do. The wind was howling, the sand and water were everywhere, and the camera was going to be drained. So I was lucky to get this. And at first it was elemental wrath of the sea, but that was a little bit long. So I went with something else. By the middle of February, the sight of an unknown someone walking on a beach near the forecastle would have been a historic event. Should any ask how I endured this isolation in so wild a place, and in the depth of winter, I can only answer that I enjoyed every moment to the full. To be able to see and study undisturbed the processes of nature, I like better the old biblical phrase, mighty works, is an opportunity for which any man might feel reverent gratitude. And here at last, in this silence and isolation of winter, a whole region was mine whose innermost natural life might shape itself through its ancient courses without the hindrance and interferences of man. So wild a place. Chapter 6, Lanterns on the Beach. On this coast, as on every other in the old isolated days, a wreck was a treasure trove, a free gift of the sea. Even today, the usable parts of a wreck are liable to melt away in a curious manner. There is no real looting. In fact, public opinion on the Cape is decidedly against such a practice, for it offends the local sense of decency. So we have Gift of the Sea. Anybody know what this is? Back in 2008, a shipwreck appeared in Wellfleet on Kumalo Beach. And I visited there 4 different times. This is February? Yeah, okay, so this is the first appearance. The appearance when it first appeared. And saw it in the paper and ran down. It's a beautiful bay. And the 3 subsequent trips, it looked different every time. It's quite amazing. And then one day, it was gone. Magical. I guess the tendency for these wrecks like this, they don't get like dragged out to sea and then spit back up. They actually get buried and then uncovered. So it's still there. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's back up. You gotta go. Chapter 7 is an island stroll in spring. And what Henry did is he decided to leave the forecastle and walk into Eastham, to the bay, Ocean to Bay walk. So this is a shot over Nauset Marsh. I took this back in '03. I was practically a kid. And kind of near the little bridge that's out there at the marsh. Once Nauset Road approaches Eastham Village, the thickets of pitch pines to the eastward fall behind. The fields south of the road widen into superb treeless moorland, rolling down to the shores of the great lagoon. Orchard tops become visible in hollows, and a few homes sit upon the moors like stranded ships. Eastham Village itself, however, is not treeless, for there are shade trees near many houses and trees along the road. And if you've ever looked at postcards or photographs over the decades, at one time it was a vast forest here, and then trees were cut down for buildings, homes, and heat. There's a great shot I love of Dome Rock, the Great Rock, Enos's Rock, etc., which shows Dome Rock and it's looking like towards, it's looking north, and there's nothing, zero. It's fascinating how the landscape has changed. So that was the superb moorlands. So now in chapter 8, which is called Night on the Great Beach, we have the we have my friend Abandoning Day. Went through just could never get the right word I wanted. Henry writes, by day, space is one with the earth and with man. It is his sun that is shining, his clouds that are floating past. At night, space is his no more. When the great earth, abandoning day, rolls up the deeps of the heavens and the universe, imagery is phenomenal, rolls up the deeps of the heavens and the universe. A new door opens for the human spirit. And there are few so clownish that some awareness of the mystery of being does not touch them as they gaze. For a moment of night, we have a glimpse of ourselves and of our world islanded in its stream of stars. Pilgrims of mortality, voyaging between horizons across eternal seas of space and time. Come on, that's amazing. So, we are on to chapter 9, the year at high tide. And this was taken at sea. This is just, look, if you get close enough, you can see the little, I call it the bike bridge, the little bridge over the marsh. And right up from there, the little lookout. I don't know if the bench is still there. They take the bench away? Where you, is it there? Where you can look out and see all different formations of tidal activity. So, had to get some words to paste together to create the right title for this one. The winter sea was a mirror in a cold, half-lighted room. The summer sea is a mirror in a room burning with light. So abundant is the light and so huge the mirror that the whole of a summer day floats reflected on the glass. Colors gather there, sunrise and twilight, cloud shadows and cloud reflections, the pewter dullness of the gathering rain. Did you know that what we had out here, pewter dullness? The blue burning splendor of space swept free of every cloud, light transfixes ocean, and some warmth steals in with the light, but the waves that glint in the sun are still a tingling cold. Now we come to the final chapter. I'll do a little sidebar. I had an experience very recently that I wanted to share. I was listening to an old Doors CD. Everybody knows the Doors, I hope. And I was really overwhelmed by the lyrics of Jim Morrison in one of the songs. And it sounded very Beston-esque to me. Something that Henry might have written if in the 60s he was a young, angry environmentalist. What have they done to the earth? What have they done to our fair sister? Ravaged and plundered and bit her and ripped her, stuck her with knives in the side of the dawn, and tied her with fences and dragged her down. And now Henry's comparable message. Not as radical, but no less passionate. Do no dishonor to the earth, lest you dishonor the spirit of man. Hold your hands out over the earth as over a flame. To all who love her, who open to her the doors of their veins, she gives of her strength, sustaining them with her own measureless tremor of dark life. Touch the earth, love the earth, honor the earth, her plains, her valleys, her hills, and her seas. Rest your spirit in her solitary places. For all the gifts of life are the earth's, and they are given to all. And they are the songs of birds at daybreak, Orion and the bear, and dawn seen over ocean from the beach. Thank you. Any questions? And I brought them down to the wreck, and I scattered some in, took some pictures, a little more sand on it, spread the coins out, a little different angle, get the sun on the boat, messed around, scooped them up, put them in my pocket. Now, prior to walking down, up at the top where the parking lot was a sign, and it said, it's very threatening, $10,000 fine for taking a piece of the shipwreck. Anything that's on the beach is seashore property. And as much as a fellow like me who collects all sorts of stuff would love to walk away with a trunnel or something from this, not right. So I'm walking up to the to my truck, and I see parked across from me is a Ranger's pickup truck. And I get the camera off, and the PD was with me, get her in the truck, and the Ranger starts walking over, and walks up to me, and he says, saw you down at the wreck. Oh yeah, that's me. He says, you know there's a $10,000 fine for taking parts of the shipwreck. I says, yeah, that's fine. He says, well, I saw you messing around down there in the sand, and I was like, oh my God. I started laughing. I reached out and I grabbed his sleeve, and I'm laughing. I said, and I take the gold can of coins out of my pocket. I said, I was photographing these. And he started laughing. Well, it was kind of funny. I ran into him several times over that. His name's Tim Morrison. He's still one of the Rangers. And in fact, once in a while we email back and forth. It was just this funny little bonding experience we had with each other. So there was no fine involved, no jail time.